The truth is out there, or so we're led to believe, but for many people, the source and hotspot of pretty much every conspiracy ever uttered in the modern era always finds its way back to one location in particular, Area 51, a true American secret that has spawned more conspiracy theories than perhaps any other military facility in the world. In fact, the most impressive feat to date is how little we still know about Area 51 and how tightly the lid has been kept on it for nearly 70 years. While that lid goes by many names, and the subsequent folklore that surrounds the infamous site would lead us to believe that the world is much more mystical and magical than what we're currently aware of. But let's say, if that lid ever came loose, what would we find in Area 51? Let's take a look. Hello Internet, what's going on? And once again, welcome back to the most inquisitive channel on YouTube, Life's Biggest Questions. As per usual, I'll be your disembodied floating voice Jack Finch, as today we curiously ask the question, what will we find in Area 51? Roll the clip.
Look at this. Anti-gravity.
This is huge. I knew it. Oh my god, I knew I wasn't crazy.
My dad was right.
I knew it.
For the curious amongst you, that clip was from 2015's aptly titled found footage horror film Area 51, which for the most part was a disaster of a horror movie, but hey, you can't deny the fact that it sets the scene pretty well for this particular Life's Biggest Question, right? Yeah, I thought as much. It's incredible what you can do with some cornstarch, water, and an upturned speaker cone. Who knew? However, before we dive into tackling the little box of cosmic horrors that may or may not be lurking within the dank depths of Area 51, it's probably important that we first and foremost outline what we do know about this legendary site of conspiracy and intrigue, and ground ourselves with a healthy sprinkle of reality before we start levitating like an anti-gravity spacefaring vessel. Yeah, let's start with the facts. Area 51 is a US Air Force military installation located primarily beside the geographical area of Groom Lake, a dry lake that covers approximately 11.3 miles of arid salt flats. The facility itself, which is commonly referred to as Area 51, also goes by the names Homey Airport, Groom Lake, Dreamland, or Paradise Ranch, or The Ranch. As far as we know, the location was acquired back in 1955 for the alleged primary purpose of testing the Lockheed U-2 aircraft, and would subsequently go on to become a highly specialized testing facility for other unprecedented aerial operations. Now, the initial authorization for these operations, which were conducted by President Dwight D. Eisenhower himself under the codename Aquatone, would lead to the development and operational testing of other aircraft such as the A-12 reconnaissance plane, as well as the stealth fighter F-117 Nighthawk. You see, the lake bed of the arid salt flats made an ideal strip for testing aircraft, and according to the U-2's designer, Kelly Johnson, the geographical properties of Groom Lake were almost uncanny. In fact, they were perfect for being a landing area, and even more perfect for being a remote, secretive area to test the highly important properties of aircraft such as the U-2. Soon enough after the area had been acquired under the CIA's designation, Johnson began referring to the area as Paradise Ranch, encouraging his fellow engineers and researchers to move out to this brand new facility in the middle of nowhere. Within just several months, the ranch consisted of a single paved runway, 3 hangars, a control tower, a few bunkers for sleeping in, even a movie theater and a volleyball court, and by July 1955, personnel from both the CIA, the United States Air Force, and Lockheed began arriving on the base. So far, so good, right? It sounds pretty straightforward. Military base testing secretive aerospace technology. Yeah, we can jive with that. We can understand the significance of the salt flats and the fences and the armed guards and such. So let's slide forward with another fact. Despite knowledge of the base's existence since at least the late 50s, the United States government played stum with any and every reference to its existence. And by existence, I mean that the United States government didn't even acknowledge that anything was there within the Groom Lake site, despite its active employment of private and public personnel for decades. In their own words, Area 51 doesn't exist, or didn't exist in hindsight, because on the 25th of June 2013, for the first time ever, the CIA publicly acknowledged the existence of the base following a Freedom of Information Act request that was filed 8 years previously in 2005 by a particularly diligent skeptic of Area 51's operational significance. And why was that Freedom of Information Act requested? Well, because of course conspiracy theories, the reason that you're all here, which partly all came spewing forth following the alleged events of Roswell, New Mexico in 1947, but more importantly gained a resurgence again in 1974. So let's start with a few facts of their own. An event which is commonly referred to as the Skylab incident occurred when a memo written to the then CIA director William Colby by another unknown CIA official, which had been secretly leaked after astronauts aboard the Skylab 4 vessel had photographed a certain non-existent location that shouldn't ever be photographed. I mean, this was obviously before the days of Google Earth, but that goes without saying, doesn't it? As the memo from the unknown official stated, there were specific instructions not to do this. Redacted was the only location which had such an instruction. Yeah, I think we can guess what the redacted in question is there, right? But the most intriguing aspect of the Skylab incident is in Colby's following response to the unknown official's rhetoric. Following the memo's leak, it also included several handwritten remarks that alleged as to the intention of Area 51 and why the unknown official would begin to question William Colby, he himself the head of the Central Intelligence Agency. Seemingly, this unknown official, someone above even him, thought it fit to question why Area 51 would ever be accidentally photographed from space by a group of unassuming astronauts. That seems like quite the overreaction, doesn't it? All for an Air Force base, in inverted commas. Yeah, things don't quite add up, do they? And while all of this has only served to further propel the regime of questioning aimed at Area 51, many of which have fallen into ridicule for their ludicrous claims, but few of which have actually stuck and remain to be a thorn in the side as to the true nature of Area 51. The biggest one of those is a man named Bob Lazar, a physicist and engineer who in 1989 claimed to have worked at Area 51 for a 6-month period at a secondary facility site known as S4, buried underground beneath the Papoose Lake portion of the Groom Lake area. And although with that site in particular we'll go into greater detail of it in a further video, at S4 Bob Lazar claimed to have worked on the reverse engineering of a series of 9 alien space vessels. Following his first public claim in May of 1989 after appearing under interview by investigative journalist George Knapp, Bob Lazar has gone into great detail about his time at S4, where he acknowledges that his work primarily revolved around trying to figure out how these vessels propelled themselves, with his only professional conclusion being anti-gravity. Amongst other things, of course, but the strange thing about Bob Lazar is that the specifics of his time at S4 are incredibly believable. And even after decades of a smear campaign against him, he still holds true to his claims. I mean, this one's on you to decide, and it's up to you to make your own mind about it. But yeah, if what Mr. Lazar says is true, then over there at Area 51 is the technology for spacecraft to propel themselves by gravitational means, which, you know, kind of changes the entire technological fabric of our civilization, given that gravity is one of the most overwhelming forces in the universe, and the means to harness that power is exponential. It sounds like a pretty important thing that you want to keep away from prying eyes, right? Oh, and also, don't try and break in, you daft idiot. They've like a lot of guns there, and probably like alien guns too, so don't do it. Well, on that note, there we have it, our long and short answer to the question, what will we find in Area 51? Everything or nothing at all. What do you guys think? Do you agree, disagree? Then let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below, as well as any choice picks of your own. Before we depart from today's video though, let's first take a quick look at some of your more creative comments from over the past few days. Feral Changeling says, "You fools, you drain the ocean and awaken Cthulhu. What's wrong with you?" Well, that's old news, Feral Changeling. Haven't you heard? There may or may not be evidence of an advanced alien civilization at a salt lake in Nevada. And that's been drained for ages. Trust me, Cthulhu may or may not be the least of our worries. Move on. Well, yeah, on that note, that's unfortunately what we've got time for in today's video. Cheers for sticking around all the way until the end. If you were a fan of this video, or just Life's Biggest Questions in general, then please be a dear and hit that thumbs up button, as well as that subscribe bell, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. As per usual, I've been your disembodied floated voice, Jack Finch. You've been watching Life's Biggest Questions, and until next time, you take it easy.